Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And I think it's important to remember that they're not just here because we offer something more. Immigrants are here because we need them. We don't exist as a country without immigrants. We're here because they bring music, because they bring food and poetry and art and laughter. They bring community, but they also bring incredible economic benefits. I talked earlier about the $1.7 trillion over 10 years, the 438,000 new jobs, the $700 in increased wages for everyone, the 6 years of additional life that we give Social Security. All those are economic benefits. Do we know that 3/4 of the undocumented immigrants in the labor force are actually essential? That means they are the essential workers. But not just that, but there are healthcare workers. 38% of the home healthcare aides caring for our loved ones at home. 29% of physicians, 23% of pharmacists. They are taking care of us. They are keeping us healthy. But not only that, they're our entrepreneurs. They're the ones who are starting our businesses. Right now, 25% of new firms in America are opened by first-generation immigrants. The New American Economy reports that over 3 million immigrant entrepreneurs employ almost 8 million American workers across the nation. You know, it is immigrants and the children of immigrants who we have just heard who come and serve in Congress, but they also start over half of all Fortune 500 companies. But yet, they are subject to the hatred that brought tears to my colleagues' eyes because it is not right. And they are subject to that hatred in order to detract us from talking about what we need to talk about. And what we need to talk about is what we have been doing in this Congress when we passed the American Rescue Plan. Instead of going back and being able to tell your communities that we passed the American Rescue Plan, help is on the way, we're going to be putting shots in the arms and we're going to get people back to work and kids back in schools, they don't want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about the border. That border is not threatening any of us. But that's what they wanted to talk about because they didn't want to get to the work at hand. But we are going to get to the work at hand. And we're going to push to include immigration in the reconciliation. We heard earlier discussions about the manner in which families had been torn apart and separated at the border by the Trump administration. I have a bill that will not only reunify those families, but as a mea culpa, as a way of saying we're sorry, we'll make sure that they actually receive a visa and that they receive the kind of care that we must do whenever you traumatize a young child and they need that help. We are also going to push to make sure that everyone who pays taxes receives the child tax credit. Because those immigrant families are working, they are paying their taxes, and they're not getting the benefit of the child tax credit. So we are going to make sure that we push for that and argue for that. We are going to make sure that we highlight who our immigrant brothers and sisters are, because they are us. And I want to remind us here today that back when this country was founded, even with all of its faults and flaws, and they were original sins and how we started, that even back then, when our founders talked about what this house should look like, they said that it should be a mirror, a portrait of America. And they said that we should make sure that we, Congress, has the right to pass the laws regarding how we vote us into office, because they did not trust those states. And this was back as in the founding. They did not trust those states because they knew they would fight against having our house look like the miniature of the American people, a portrait. And so that is the other thing we are going to fight to do, is to make sure that we get the voting rights in H.R. 1 passed and H.R. 4 passed, because that is how we also continue to push for immigration reform, because we know American wants it. We talked about those polls, 83%, 67%. There is great, great support for that. And it's only because we are not able to truly exercise our democratic values of self-governance that we have not yet passed it. But we have this moment in reconciliation. We have this moment. It is a priority of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. It is a priority of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. It is a priority of so many of our colleagues. And so I am incredibly hopeful. I am looking forward to listening to the President's words after a recent meeting with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus to tell us that he will also be supporting this. And we call upon the Senate to support immigration reform and the Reconciliation Act. And with that, Madam Speaker, I yield back.